I still remember the exact shade of the hallway lights that night. Not bright, not dim, just that tired, institutional yellow that makes everything feel slightly unreal. Like the building itself hadn't fully woken up, or maybe never planned to. It was the kind of lighting that messes with your sense of time, makes minutes stretch, makes silence louder. I was sitting at the monitoring desk with my feet hooked around the legs of a spare chair, rocking it back just enough to stay awake. The vending machine coffee beside me was still warm, but it already tasted burnt, like it had given up before I even drank it. This was supposed to be a boring night. 4 patients, routine sleep study, no emergencies scheduled, no experimental protocols, no high-risk cases, just wires, screens and quiet. People love to ask what it's like working in a sleep lab. They always expect something dramatic, something creepy. The truth is, nothing usually happens. That's why the night it did still lives in my head. And that's why the timestamp 3 a.m. feels less like a time now and more like a warning. Before I tell you what the camera saw, I need you to understand the rhythm of those nights. Because what made it disturbing wasn't just what happened, it was how badly it broke the pattern I trusted. I'd been a sleep lab tech for a little over 2 years at that point. Not a doctor, not a researcher, just the person who handles the overnight monitoring, the quiet middle layer between patients and physicians. My job was simple on paper: hook people up, watch their brain activity, document anything unusual, wake them gently if needed, electroencephalogram, eye movement sensors, chin muscle tone, chest belts, oxygen saturation, heart rate, and video. Every room has a camera, every room has a microphone. We tell patients that up front. Most laugh it off. Some get awkward. A few ask if we really watch them all night. The honest answer, yes, all night. Not in a creepy way, in a clinical way. Screens instead of faces, data instead of dreams. That night, I was covering the graveyard shift because one of the senior techs called in sick. Last-minute swap, extra pay, no supervision. I didn't mind. Night shifts were quieter, no administrators wandering through, no meetings, no interruptions. Just me, the monitors, and the soft hum of machines that never slept. The 4 patients were standard enough. Room 1, a middle-aged guy with suspected sleep apnea. Heavy snorer, large neck circumference. Oxygen levels dipped every time he rolled onto his back. He'd already triggered 3 alerts before midnight. Room 2, a college-aged woman referred for night terrors. She warned me, very calmly, that she sometimes screamed in her sleep. I thanked her for the warning and told her we'd be monitoring closely. Room 3, an older man doing a CPAP titration study. Honestly, the dream patient, cooperative, quiet, predictable. Room 4 was the only outlier. He'd been added late that afternoon, male, early 30s, no confirmed diagnosis yet. The referral note from his primary care doctor was short, too short. Patient reports unusual nocturnal behavior, requests polysomnography. That phrase, unusual nocturnal behavior, should have stuck with me more than it did. When I brought him back to his room earlier that evening, he seemed normal, polite, soft-spoken, tired in a way that went beyond just poor sleep. Not grumpy tired, not stressed tired, more like worn down, like someone who hadn't had a full night of rest in years. While I was attaching electrodes to his scalp, he made a joke about looking like he belonged in a sci-fi movie. I smiled and told him everyone says that. He laughed, but there was something off about it. The laugh landed a fraction too late, like he'd waited to see if laughing was the correct response. I noticed it, filed it away, didn't think much of it. By 12:47 a.m., all 4 patients were asleep. By 1:30, I was in that familiar limbo state every night tech knows. Alert enough to respond, relaxed enough to drift, monitors glowing, data scrolling, EEG waves rising and falling like slow tides. At 2:14 a.m., room 2 screamed. Sharp, sudden, piercing enough to cut through the quiet. I didn't jump. I'd expected it. I marked the event, pulled up her camera, and watched her thrash for about 30 seconds. Arms flailing, legs kicking, heart rate spiking hard, classic parasomnia pattern. By 2:15 she settled, breathing slowed, EEG normalized, textbook. At 2:41 a.m., room 1 stopped breathing long enough to trigger another apnea alarm. Again. I sighed, adjusted the monitoring thresholds, and made another note. He rolled onto his side. Oxygen levels climbed back up and the alarm stopped. I remember glancing at the clock. 2:58 a.m. Almost done with the worst part of the night. Then the timestamp flipped. 03:02. Room 4's camera flickered. Just a hiccup. A single skipped frame. That happens sometimes. Old system. Minor lag. Nothing worth documenting. But then the motion sensor flagged. Not a leg twitch, not a rollover, a full posture change. I leaned forward in my chair. On the screen, the man in room 4 was sitting straight up in bed, perfectly upright. No pushing with his arms, no groggy sway, no slow adjustment like people make when they wake. It was like someone had rotated him from horizontal to vertical. His spine straight, his shoulders square, his eyes open. That alone isn't unheard of. People open their eyes during certain sleep stages, but his eyes weren't darting or unfocused. They were fixed, locked, staring directly into the camera. I felt something tighten in my chest. I checked the EEG, still asleep. Not borderline, not transitioning, deep sleep. Clean, slow wave activity exactly where it should be. Your brain doesn't let you sit up like that in deep sleep. It just doesn't. I told myself the sensors must be wrong. Electrodes can shift, artifacts happen, data lies. I glanced at the audio channel. Flat. No breathing sounds, no movement noise. Then he smiled. Not wide, not exaggerated. Just a subtle upward curl at the corners of his mouth, like he'd heard something funny, like he knew something I didn't. A chill ran up my arms. You learn, working this job, to tell the difference between random muscle activity and intentional expression. That smile was intentional. My first instinct was to get up and go to his room, knock softly, wake him, rule out sleepwalking. But protocol says you observe first, unless there's immediate danger. So I watched. At 03:01:17, his head tilted slightly to the left, slow, controlled. The EEG didn't budge. At 03:02:04, he raised his right hand, not jerky, not loose. Every muscle seemed to engage in sequence, like a marionette pulled by careful strings. He placed his palm flat against his chest, then pressed hard. The heart rate monitor spiked sharply, then stabilized. He wasn't trying to hurt himself. It felt more like checking, like confirming something was still there. I remember whispering, "What are you doing?" Even though I was alone, the microphones picked up nothing. Then he spoke, quietly, soft enough that if I hadn't been wearing headphones, I might have missed it. "I know you're there." My stomach dropped. People talk in their sleep all the time. Random phrases, disconnected words. This wasn't that. His voice was calm, directed. I glanced behind me, irrationally, like someone might be standing in the control room. No one was. "I can see you," he said. I told myself he meant the camera. Cameras are visible. Patients sometimes fixate. Coincidence. My brain reaching for patterns. Then he said my name. Not my full name, the shortened version, the one only co-workers used. I ripped the headphones off. My heart was pounding so hard it felt like it was shaking my vision. I pulled up his chart again, hands trembling. I had never told him my name. My badge wasn't visible when I'd wired him up. There was no way for him to know it. I replayed the audio. Same result, clear as day, my name. I stood up so fast my chair scraped loudly across the floor. I thought about calling security, or the on-call physician, or literally anyone else. Instead, I did the stupidest thing possible. I spoke back. I leaned toward the microphone and said quietly, "Sir, can you hear me?" There was a pause. The smile widened. "Yes," he said. "You're very loud tonight." That didn't make sense. I wasn't speaking loudly. I wasn't speaking at all before. Then the lights in the control room flickered. Once, monitors dimmed, came back. I felt numb. I checked the EEG again, still asleep. No arousal, no REM, nothing. "Sir," I said, forcing calm into my voice, "I'm going to come check on you." "No." The word snapped out instantly, firm, final. "You don't need to do that," he said. "I'm almost done." Done with what? At 03:04:11, he turned his head away from the camera. The angle shouldn't have allowed it, but I could swear he wasn't looking at the wall. He was looking past it, like the camera wasn't his real focus, like something else in the room had his attention. Then he nodded. Once. Slow. "Thank you," he whispered, and lay back down, head on pillow, arms at his sides, face blank, eyes closed. The EEG slid smoothly into deeper slow-wave sleep. Heart rate normal. Breathing steady. If I hadn't watched the playback later, I would have convinced myself I imagined it. I didn't move for a full minute, then another. When the adrenaline finally dropped, I started shaking. I wanted to leave. I wanted to wake him up and demand answers. I wanted to pretend nothing happened. Instead, I did my job. I marked the event, time-stamped it, wrote the most sterile note of my career. Patient exhibited unusual postural change and vocalization during N3 sleep. I didn't go back into that room for the rest of the night. Morning staff arrived at 6:30. Sunlight crept through the hallway windows, automatically making everything feel safer. Room 4 woke up normally, stretched, yawned, asked if he'd slept okay. I avoided his eyes while removing the electrodes. When I finally looked up, he was watching me. "Did I do it again?" he asked casually. "Do what?" I said. "Talk," he replied. "I sometimes talk." "Nothing unusual," I lied. He smiled. "Well," he said, standing, "that's good." At the door, he paused. "Oh," he added, "you might want to check the cameras more often between 3 and 4. Then he left. I didn't sleep for 2 days. A week later, we reviewed the footage. The attending physician didn't laugh. He didn't explain it away. He asked one question instead. "Has this feed been accessed remotely?" According to the logs, someone had watched the camera live, from 2:58 to 3:06. The system didn't recognize the user. Administration told us to drop it. IT said glitch. The patient never returned. His file vanished. I quit 6 months later. Not because I was scared, but because every night around 3 a.m., I started waking up, sitting straight up, heart racing, certain I wasn't alone, and sometimes when my phone screen reflects back at me in the dark, I swear I see myself smiling. If you've ever woken up at the same time every night for no reason, tell me about it below. I really want to know.